Hello again, everybody. Dr. Glenn with Infinite Wellness. Another question and answer for today. Please give it a like, give it a look, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And if you could, please share us. We'd love to get more. And any more questions we have, the more I can answer.
All right, so today it says, is eating a diet such as the carnivore diet, keto, vegetarian, vegan, are any of those the healthiest option for a human?
Excellent question. This is one very near and dear to my heart. Over the years, I have done lots of experimentation. I've done lots of research. I've talked with hundreds and hundreds of patients and people about a lot of these things. And I'd like to kind of clear some of this stuff up. And I'll do that in a way so as not to step on anybody's toes if at all possible. There are lots of people out there who have made choices to eat a certain way based on things that are important to them, whether it's, religious views or, animal rights as a vegan or things of that nature. Those things I understand, but at the same time, I want to try to explain how humans are different from many of the animals out there. We know that there are carnivorous animals out there, things such as lions and tigers, cheetah, lots of these very elaborate animals, and they eat strictly a diet of meats. There are animals out there that are completely herbivores. They eat nothing but plants. Humans are uniquely different in as much as that we are what is known as omnivores. Omni means all, basically, all-encompassing. An omnivore is able to eat a large variety of different things and for a large variety of reasons. And so when it comes to dieting out of mindset, whether it's to lose weight or whether it's to stay healthy, most of these diet types, what we're calling a specific way of eating, carnivore, keto, vegetarian, vegan, all have benefits, but they all lack. And that's the big thing I want people to understand, is that anytime you're eating something that is considered a strict diet, strict vegan, strict vegetarian, strict carnivore, strict keto, you are eliminating some of what makes us uniquely human and what gives us certain things that other animals can't get out of processing our foods. The understanding that we can find ways to hack the system, so to speak, aren't necessarily a healthy option. Human beings were made by nature, by genetics, and I've studied a lot of this. I promise if you'd like to ask me further questions on this, please feel free, ask more questions. But by genetics, we are omnivorous. We are necessitate all different food groups. Now, when I say all, I don't mean garbage, I don't mean sugar. I mean, when I say food things we require, we're looking at things that are beneficial to us. The breakdown of lots of the essential carbohydrates, so many of you carnivores going to miss out on this one. The breakdown of very significant proteins. You vegetarians, I promise, you're going to miss out on some of this. Now, my vegetarians will argue there are plants that have protein, and I can get all my proteins from plants. Well, there are plants that have proteins. There are lots of things that you can eat that do contain protein, but your panel will be lacking. They do not contain all of the ones that some of the animal products do, and vice versa. Carnivorous people, keto people, remember, if you're not eating a lot of carbohydrates or any carbohydrates whatsoever, you're staying strictly carnivore, you're going to miss out on a lot of very specific breakdown of certain carbs, certain sugars that give us energy. So there's a big fight in the world, so to speak, about this right now. I mean, so it's like a boxing match. Just plants, just animals. This is healthier, this is healthier. Health-wise, you're both wrong. I'm sorry. Neither one of you are taking into account that we are omnivorous as human beings. Omnivores require all of these different things. Now, ratios can be debated, and I'll certainly chime in on that. You can watch one of my other videos where I talk about a diet that is more percentage-based, 50, 35, 15. I won't get into that today because that's another discussion we've already done, but if you look back at our other videos, we talk about some of this on how to find that right ratio for a human being, so that we're getting proper amounts. I think it was a food pyramid when we did, where we're getting proper amounts. It's turning the food pyramid almost upside down from what we used to know, where grains and all that stuff were your basis and your foundation and most of your dietary concern, all the way up into proteins that were very low. I believe we're kind of the opposite. And the reason for that, like I said, is it's not really about what I eat of a category that's good for me. It's about how do I balance all of the categories to make my function the best possible. And that comes down, like I said, to an omnivorous diet where we're consuming carbohydrates, we're consuming proteins, we're consuming fats, and all in the right percentages. So those of you who are extremes of any one end or the other are missing out, I promise. And I'd love to talk to you more about that. If you have questions about what am I missing or what's lacking in a certain dietary concern, please feel free. Add it into the questions. Type it in below. Ask us some other way, any way you want. We would love to talk about this, but for now, I'll leave it at that. The body functions at its optimum when it has all of the components that it requires. Just like you wouldn't run your car without gasoline and oil and brake fluid, and all of those components make that car functional. If you leave any one out, you run risks. If you leave multiples out, you run greater risks, and often even almost to the point of the car not running well or not running at all. And the same thing occurs in the human body. So as a whole, the healthiest thing you can do is follow a diet that includes everything, just in better percentages, to help you maximize your effort and what you put forth. And again, sports cars are going to run on a little bit different fuel than, say, Honda Civic, and not one of them fancy tuner ones, just your general old 1980 model, Honda Civic with the hatchback, old car. So there are different ways that we're going to formulate and change up our percentages based on how we run. If you're an extreme athlete, you're going to change up how you do than if you're just sitting on a couch. But in general, all of the food groups need to be maintained. We need to teach the car to run at its best performance, whatever that car is. We know we're different genetically, but we also know that we're all cars. Same concept here. We're all humans. So we need all of the components to run appropriately. It just needs to be at the right percentages. I don't need gallons and gallons of brake fluid to run my car. That's recycled as a small little bit and used on a regular basis. Gasoline I need on a regular basis.
Since the question's talking a lot about diets,
Yes.
is a lot of people when they're dieting are trying to be calorie deficient or, cut out calories or balance their calories, whatever it is.
Yes.
Is that a healthy option in the form of dieting, or is there a different way to do that?
Okay, yeah, and I'll answer that with this. Caloric intake is another huge, that's like a 5-hour lecture if I really get into it. We're going to get into mathematics and all that fun stuff that everybody hates. But let's just consider it this way. All of us know that as a human being, at a certain size, at a certain weight, we need a certain amount of intake energy to run properly. Anytime I decrease that below what is needed, standardized for me, I'm not helping myself. Now, whether I lose weight or not isn't really even the option here, and I don't really like the terms weight loss. I prefer body composition change. I do weight loss seminars, but I tell people I don't teach you how to lose weight. I teach you how to change your body composition. So a lot of this restrictive caloric stuff is really just about trying to get pounds off, things off on the scale. And oftentimes what you're losing when we're in a calorie deficit, we're actually losing muscle mass, not fat. And stored fat holds on very, very well. Muscle mass starts to become very deficient in a calorie deficit diet. So being in a calorie deficit is not good for you. We need to teach our body to be able to burn what we put into it. And so we need a certain amount to make sure that we're healthy. And then we need to take that healthy that we're now getting and increase our activity level, not change our food consumption amount. So too many people are thinking diet instead of how do I make myself healthy? And dieting's not healthy. We all know that. If you look at it, you know that it is a temporary solution to an ongoing problem. It's not a long-term lifestyle change. And it generally doesn't last very long. Even if you lose the weight, most of you are going to gain it right back. And you found that to be true after time number 4, 5, 82. I don't know how long you've been doing this. But if you keep bouncing back, it is still a problem and you're never actually eating enough calories. You are going to run yourself into deficiencies. I use my mother as an example a lot of this. My mom, who now is a lot older, weighs 93 pounds, and she is almost 50% body fat. If you're wondering how that occurs, that's a lack of proper nutrition. Her bone mass is critically low. She has very severe osteoporosis. There is no muscle mass on her system. She is hanging bone and skin, and even that bone is not very dense anymore. That is not a state of health. She is not healthy. And so there's a big difference between losing weight, calorie-wise, losing weight and actually losing necessary, needed weight. And I tell people, it's not about the number on the scale. It's about the body composition. If you do not own a body fat analyzer, you shouldn't even be trying to do calorie deficiency, because if your body fat percentage is rising as your weight is going down, you're just destroying muscle mass. And that's what most people are doing and don't even realize it when they calorie deficit diet. So yeah, long lecture for another time. There's a lot more data on that, a lot more stuff I can give you. Again, if you ever want to see one of my weight loss seminars, they actually do run almost 3 hours. I usually either do them in a 3-part series over the week, 1 hour each night, or I'll do them all at once if I have a large enough group that wants to come in and sit. But it takes close to 3 hours to get through all the information that I have to give so that you can really kind of understand it and find new ways to become healthier, eat properly, and include all of the different food groups you necessitate to make you feel good. We're not all about just being skinny. We're not all about just being, it's about health. What is your performance level? And so, yeah, a lot of these fad things, like some of these diets, going vegan, going carnivore, going whatever it is you choose, oftentimes aren't, the ones who are doing that because they're all about a certain viewpoint is different. If it's a critical thing to you because you do not wish to eat animals, because you have a religious belief or a belief that should not, you're an activist in that's different. That's up to you, but you will struggle. Same thing, you folks out there have gone crazy carnivore because you think that's the right idea, or maybe you just hate plants. Maybe you just don't like to eat plants. That's fine, but you will miss out. So health-wise, we're omnivores, and we need to start learning to be able to eat like an omnivore. And like I said, a lot of other lectures. Please check out the food pyramid one. You'll hear a little bit more about the percentages I think are right, and you can make better decisions from there. But any questions, please ask them. Love to hear from you. Have a wonderful holiday. Enjoy for now. We'll start talking more about dietary stuff in January.